Hello and back to the Marco's Movies channel, a place to learn more, know more, and talk more about movies. Today we're talking the top 10 most badass movie characters of all time. I'm going to be honest, this is one of the harder lists to make, as in just about all my top 50 to 100 movies, there's that one character that I honestly would consider a badass. And later in this video, when we get to my number one pick, before then, I'm going to give all my honorable mentions, all the picks that were so close to making it, but couldn't. So make sure you stay tuned for that. If you guys are new around here, well then hello, my name is Gianmarco, Marco's Movies, helping you learn more and know more and talk more about movies. In this channel, I rate, review, and I rank movies just like this. So if you enjoy this video, please consider clicking that subscribe button and comment down below who is your top 5, top 10, number 1, whatever you want to do, most badass movie character of all time. But with all that being said, let's get started. At my number 10 is one of my more recent entries on this list, Daniel Craig's James Bond. Now, in Casino Royale, we really start to learn how much of a badass he is, as through the whole chasing sequence. I love the stuff where the guy he's chasing, the stunts he's doing, and Daniel Craig does stuff like just runs through a door, or when he gets a gun thrown at him, he throws it back, or when he's jumping down a 20 feet jump, he drops and he just shrugs it off like nothing ever happened. And also the card game. And I think one of the most badass movie lines in history is when Daniel Craig, after almost just dying from the poison he drank, he says this.
I'm sorry. That last hand nearly killed me.
But Daniel Craig is by far, I think, the most badass Bond we've ever gotten. And the 10th most badass movie character. Coming in at my number 9 is James from The Town, played by Jeremy Renner, aka Hawkeye. This guy, he's so funny and such a badass. The first kind of encounter we realize he's a badass is when a cop just talks back to him. He just starts smacking with his gun, and all his friends are like, hey, chill the fuck out. And he's just smacking him with the gun.
Easy. That's enough.
Or when Ben Affleck comes to his house asking him to go beat up some guys. He doesn't give him a reason. He just says, we gotta go kick some ass. He even specifically says, I can never tell you. And Jeremy Renner's just like, whose car are we taking? And the scene where he takes his mask off. I see your face. Just remember he's like, hold on, I forgot the line. Give me a second. You've seen my face, just know I've seen yours too. Because he knows, like, yeah, you could turn me in, but guess what? I could do the same thing to you, scumbag. And he's so badass and so funny at the same time. And he was so much fun, and it's by far my favorite Jeremy Renner performance of all time. At my number 8 is another recent entry on this list, Tom Hardy's interpretation of Mad Max. Now, the Mel Gibson Mad Maxes, while they are badass as well, see, another badass, that could have been an honorable mention. Something about Tom Hardy as this character, he had to fill in the shoes of Mel Gibson, and I think he did it, and did it even better. Just the scene where he's trying to escape and he almost does, and the only reason he gets caught is because the stupid wiring and the things he imagines, and when he leaves and blows up that freaking one of the city's like mayor's truck and just leaves and comes back with all the equipment, or when he first captures Furiosa's truck, and he shoots the outer rim of Furiosa's head and then points it at her. He doesn't say a lot in the movie, but when he does, you know he's a badass. Besides the ending is where he starts, whatever. He's like, my name is Max, which was a heartfelt moment for the movie, but no, it doesn't really affect him as a badass. And I love the fact that he leaves. Now, when he left, I was like, yes, we're getting a new Mad Max movie about him going to the next city. I don't even care if it's copying the original. I want to see more Tom Hardy. As of recently, we know there's a new Furiosa movie coming. I wish we got another Mad Max movie based off of Max's character. At my number 7 is Uma Thurman's interpretation of Beatrix Kiddo in Kill Bill. Now, this character, she literally survives death. She gets shot in the head and just goes into a 4-year coma. And when she's learning how to walk again, just saying big toe, that's not obviously badass. When she really starts to get badass is the very end of the movie, when you just see her fighting literally an army. It's like, it reminds me of Arnold in Commando, but she's literally fighting a whole army of Japanese warriors by herself. Literally there's 150 guys, and she's just fucking him up. And at the last guy, she's like, "Oh, you're a young kid. Get the hell out of here." And then she just slowly kicks. She literally kills 5 big assassins and Bill. And it's so much fun to watch her go back on that story. And she doesn't say much. She's just plotting her revenge against these guys. And even through getting her tits shot off and getting cut and all this shit and getting trapped underneath when she's doing the punch thing on the coffin and the training with the sensei and all that. Like, she is the true definition of a badass. And just the sword work. She doesn't use guns. She almost does in the second one, but she's a woman of little words and much cutting, if you know what I mean. At my number 6 is Linda Hamilton's Sarah Connor. Of course, you can't have a top 10 most badass movie characters list without this character on it. Now, in the first one, maybe not as much. She does kind of turn into a badass at the end of the film. She gets pregnant. She's going on her own. She kills the Terminator. Not a badass. She's a little bit of a badass. The second movie, though, she gets freaking jacked for the role, first of all, Linda Hamilton. And she's doing the muscle ups, and she's classified as mentally insane when she's not, and she eventually escapes. And she's like scared of Arnold at first and freaks out, but then she's just like, with a snap of a finger, is just this fucking badass girl with these guns, freaking not scared to kill anyone. And obviously is a very heartfelt movie. But even in the new one, Dark Fate, she still fits in the boots perfectly and plays the character of Sarah Connor so amazingly. And she's just this picture alone with her vest on, it does something for me to say she's a badass and some other stuff. But yeah, Sarah Connor, I think, in my opinion, I'm going to spoil this now, is the most badass female character ever put into film. At my number 5, now Keanu Reeves is one of my favorite actors of all time. And I could have put 4 different performances by him, but by far, I think the most badass performance he's ever had was as John Wick. The one-liners he says, like when the main kind of bad son in the film, the guy who kills his dog, is talking to him, how much for the Challenger, how much for the bitch, and then he just says, not this bitch, because he's talking another language, and he talks back. And this is when he escapes and all the shit he does. And the scene where he's in the parking lot driving the Challenger really fast, it's something I would want to do. As on the freeway, sometimes I imagine that, and I gotta be careful sometimes. Probably could hurt someone, but he's now, I debated putting the Matrix Keanu Reeves. I debated putting him on this list, but in the first movie, he doesn't really become a badass till the end, and I've only seen the first movie, so I have to watch the other 2, but his interpretation as Keanu Reeves is sick, kind of vigilante, but he's not a vigilante, because he'll show his face, and like when the cop comes over, and I'm talking about the first film, the cops comes over and he's like, "Oh, you're back in business again. There's just a dead body there." And the cop's like, "All right, I'm not gonna get killed. Have a good day." And everyone just knows that he's a bad guy, but realistically he's a good guy. And you don't want to get on his bad side because he's the Baba Yaga, the man you send to fucking kill the boogeyman. At my number 4 position is gonna go to Han Solo. Now, I'm gonna just say this now. I debated hard putting Indiana Jones here. But in my opinion, I think just Han Solo's character, and I think he's a little more badass than Indiana Jones. He's like, even when Obi-Wan Kenobi meets him, he obviously shoots Greedo. He owes Jabba money. He escapes. He always escapes Jabba. He bribes him, says it's going to be fine. He escapes. In the second movie, I think is where he really starts to take fold in his badassery, I should say. When he's flirting with Princess Leia's character, and is just like, and then when he escapes in like the freaking asteroid field, never tell me the odds, and he escapes it. He's by far the most badass guy in the galaxy. Now, like I said, I debated Indiana Jones, putting him at number 4, but coming in at my number 3 is Indiana Jones. Got you there. I love Indiana Jones. I almost love Indiana Jones more than Star Wars. Now, it is kind of hard for me to pick which one I like more. It depends what I'm in the mood for. I'm just usually more in the mood for Star Wars. This is obviously the second Harrison Ford on this top 4 list, and it is with a lot of context, because his character is Indiana Jones. It starts out when he's just running through this thing and he escapes the guy, and he has his lookout ready, and he's going through the freaking the temple. It's nothing. That's what scares me. I know that's not how it goes. But then also when he's like with his wife kind of in the movie, and they're how do I explain it? It's the scene where they're in the first movie when they're kind of in this village with people, and then there's a sword guy. It's kind of like freaking Beatrix, like sword badass assassin. He just takes out his gun and shoots him. It's kind of like a Good, the Bad, and the Ugly reference. Just like man of no words. Just, you think I'm gonna come to a sword fight? No, you're gonna come to a gunfight with a sword, is what he's basically saying. And then obviously when he keeps escaping and he keeps fighting, and then at the ending scene when he tells the girl not to look, and then obviously the second movie where he turns bad, goes back to good, and just the theme song. And Harrison Ford, he's just the definition also of a badass in Indiana Jones. But I also really hard debated putting Han Solo here or Indiana Jones, but I went with Indiana Jones to start off my top 3. At my number 2 position, and it hurts me so bad to put this character at number 2. Christian Bale is my favorite actor of all time, and this is probably my favorite movie character of all time. I mean, The Dark Knight. The name says enough. The Dark Knight. A badass vigilante dressed up as a bat that if you're going to do something wrong or mess with him, he's not going to kill you. He's just going to basically ruin your life, put you in jail the rest of your life, and you're basically screwed if you come into contact with me. This is really the guy you do not want to mess with. And Christian Bale, the lines, "Swear to me!" The voice is a little silly, but it adds to the badassery because it's like he doesn't want to be known. He wants to be, he's Bruce Wayne, but he's secretly Batman. So it's like you don't want to have the same voice. So he's, "Swear to me, I'm Batman. Where are you?" "Here." I mean, I think every quote he says as Batman could be in my favorite movie quotes of all time. And just the character, and when he makes his suit, and in the first movie when he's going through the training and he fucks with Liam Neeson, he thinks he's in front of him, but really he's behind him with the sword, and he takes off his mask. And Christian Bale does the interpretation of the Dark Knight perfectly, and it killed me so bad to put him at number 2. Before I give you guys my number 1 pick, I'm going to go ahead and shoot you a couple honorable mentions that were so close to making this list, but I just couldn't seem to include them. My first honorable mention is Tyler Durden's character, Brad Pitt's character as Tyler Durden in Fight Club. He's not real, but he's like his split personality of Edward Norton's character, but how badass he is. I mean, he starts the Fight Club. He's the king of Fight Club. He's the one everyone talks to. He literally gets a group of freaking middle-aged men who are married to go into a fight club and then eventually destroy every bank in the city. That says enough to his badassery. My next honorable mention is Samuel L. Jackson's interpretation of Jules in Pulp Fiction. The line, obviously the scripture reading he says before he kills someone. "Oh, I'm sorry. Did I?" Wait, hold on. How's the line go? It's when he shoots the guy while he's talking. "I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?" That's the line. Or when he's like, "This is a taste of burger." I mean, and at the end of the movie, how he kind of describes the scripture quote. Obviously, Tarantino's dialogue gives Samuel L. Jackson that much better of a performance. And I just absolutely love Jules in Pulp Fiction. This was probably the hardest character to leave out of this list, was Signoria Weaver, is how I say her name. His interpretation is Ripley in Alien. Specifically in the movie Aliens is when she specifically really turns into a badass. She doesn't start out the movie being part of this investigation. She's kind of just in the background saying how the aliens are bad. But then she saves obviously the little girl, and then the line, probably maybe the best, most badass line in movie history, "Get away from her, you bitch!" Or she's just so badass. She's almost at the same level as Sarah Connor, but I think Sarah Connor's just a little ahead of her. Just because she's had about 3 movies to kind of get her badassery as Signoria Weaver after Aliens, Alien 3. It's a big decline down. And then just to kind of shoot some honorable mentions, I don't want to make this video so long. You got the Wolverine, Hugh Jackman Wolverine, freaking claws, X-Men, beard, badass. Patrick Bateman. He'll have sex with you, then chase you down the hallway naked with blood all over him from the other girl he had sex with, and then he'll drop a chainsaw on your head. says enough. And then lastly, my last kind of honorable mention for most badass movie character is Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight. Another really hard one to not include. And also you could put Tom Hardy's Bane here. They're just both so iconic, such great movie characters and so badass in their own sense, but just couldn't quite cut it on this list. But coming on my number one is Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-800. The first movie, he's instantly a badass, chasing around Sarah Connor, killing every other Sarah Connor in the whole city. No one knows who it is. He's killed 3 people, but no one even can find him because he's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He'll go straight up to your house, knock on the door, pull out a gun in broad daylight while there's people outside, and shoot you. Or go in the middle of the club, pull out your gun, and shoot you. And then the second movie, he'll become best friends with your son, John Connor, and be a badass killing the T-1000, who is supposed to be better than him, but Arnold Schwarzenegger is such a good character and such a badass that he ends up killing him, sacrificing himself, but he ends up coming back in the second and later movies, and Dark Fate kind of ruins it, but I'm not going to hold it against him. Terminator 1 and 2 are the only movies that exist to me, okay? And Salvation, because Christian Bale's entertaining in that movie. So there it is, my top 10 most badass movie characters of all time, ranked from best to best is realistically, not from worst to best. And a few honorable mentions sprinkled in. If you guys enjoyed this video or are new around here, like I said, please consider clicking that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I hope you guys all have amazing days. And as always, keep watching movies.